Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Stirring the Pot. Yes, we're still here on the airwaves of U92. They haven't kicked us off just yet. We are going to get into a lot of talk about conference championship weekend in college football and the upcoming playoff bracket. But before we get into talks about that, guys, how you doing right now?
Feeling like it's 2015 again. Feeling like I'm back watching football and the golden age of our childhoods because a certain quarterback is signed with the Indianapolis Colts, who is 44 years old and will be the first grandfather to play in the NFL. That's right. Phillip Rivers is back, just announced earlier today as we were recording this. He's officially on the Colts practice squad and might start this week. So, big news out of the NFL. Other than that, it was a crazy week of college football, and we got our first look at the playoff bracket, a very exciting moment for all of college football fans, and see some of the matches we're going to get to see later on. But I'm going to send it off to you, Don. How are you feeling on this delightful Wednesday evening as you record this?
Oh, what a lob that was, John. I'm feeling just tremendous. This is the very first time that we've recorded this episode. So everything that we will be saying, we've never said before. We've never done this before. This is just like a big YouTube bloop video compilation. So get ready. It's real fun.
Blooper compilation. Today, a great Wednesday night. Obviously, a lot of rumblings in the college football world with the college football playoff and everything. But fun fact, I just saw this morning. The wind chill in Chicago for this weekend's game against the Browns, negative 20 degrees. We might have an Ice Bowl Part 2, people.
That would be very, very fun. But we're going to go and talk about what happened around college football last week in Conference Championship weekend. Obviously, we covered a few of these on the podcast last week, but we're going to go over the scores and the outcomes of these games. Obviously, let's get to the main four. BYU got absolutely shellacked by Texas Tech, 34-7. I don't know why anybody else expected anything different, but Duke taking out the overtime win against Virginia in just comical fashion. Chandler Morris throwing a pick to seal their loss. It's just written in the stars. It's going to happen every year, no matter what school he's at. But the two big playoff implication games, Indiana taking down Ohio State 13-10 to win the Big Ten. It's been a long time since you've been able to say that, Indiana. But in the SEC, Georgia take care of business 28-7 against the Crimson Tide. We'll get into Alabama a little later, but there's a couple other conference championship games. The only two that are really worthy of note would be James Madison taking down Troy in the Sun Belt and Tulane taking down North Texas. I know a lot of people had North Texas, including myself, in this game, but Tulane getting it done 34-21. What are your takeaways from Conference Championship weekend?
Yeah, we had a phenomenal nightcap to that great day of college football on Saturday. Two thrilling games, Indiana, Ohio State, and Duke, Virginia, two to the underdogs, playing out the upset for Indiana. That was just a phenomenal game all around. I think a lot of fans are going to be second-guessing, if you're a Buckeye fan, the decision Ryan Day made to go for it to pass on 3rd and 1 in field goal range in the red zone and take a shot at the end zone, and your receiver couldn't come down with the ball, and that led to you kicking a field goal, and then the field goal was missed, and then it led to Indiana winning the game on that final drive, chewing the clock out. But just a very questionable call. I personally think that even though, Indiana, the first thing with Indiana is that they won the line of scrimmage all night, and that was a big reason why they won this game. Ohio State has an NFL defense, but Indiana just beat them up front. They contained it, and Mendoza beat that defense. But if you're Ohio State, if you can't get 1 yard in the ground, you can't win a national championship. And I think seeing that was very good. I think they should have tried to run it there, get it down the field there, and that kind of led towards chain reaction for Ohio State winning that game. But, you also saw Duke have a phenomenal game, take out Virginia, as we said on last week's episode, Connor. Chandler Morris will give you a few up in the air balls, and Duke came down with them. That kind of led to that win. And then Georgia got rid of the Kalen DeBoer course and shellacked Bama. And let's what a controversy of Bama being dropped in the CFP bracket. We'll get more on that later. But Dom, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, the Bama-Georgia game, I was very concerned for Ty Simpson. I know that we've been praising him for these past few episodes about how great of a quarterback that he's been. In our Heisman episode, we named him basically the number one option. But in this game against Georgia, he just completely, I don't even know. Ty Simpson, for some reason, couldn't hold his own against the Georgia Bulldogs. He beat them earlier in the season, rematch. But anytime that Georgia would put pressure on him, Ty Simpson would just panic. He'd go to his first read, that screen option to bail himself out. And typically, it just didn't look like he did well under pressure in this game. And it raises a lot of questions for concerns going to the playoffs. But another thing is that also doesn't look so good for his Heisman resume, as, basically we said this in actually we never had this conversation before, but basically that Big Ten matchup between Indiana and Ohio State was looking like it was going to determine whoever won that game would determine the Heisman favorite, either being Julian Sain or Fernando Mendoza. Unfortunately, Fernando Mendoza, he's a nice guy, don't get me wrong, but actually, John, we've talked about this before. Actually, we have never talked about this before, but every time John says that a Heisman candidate is going to win the Heisman, they typically do. Like you said last year about Travis Hunter, you're not 2 for 2 yet, buddy. But anyways, last year we all said Ashton Genty, and rightfully so. Guy was averaging around 11 yards, per carry. John said, I don't know. I'm going to be different and be a supervillain. I'm going to pick Travis Hunter. He was right. So from now on, I'm just going to start going with John's pick so that maybe it cancels out. I don't know. I want to stop the supervillain here. But OSU was probably very upset with their kicker after that game. Could have tied it up, but unfortunately he missed a very easy one. You look at all the P's and Q's, and that's how you lose a game. That's got to be frustrating. But next time, you're a kick away from going to overtime, potentially winning against Indiana. For OSU, it was a great game. Just once, just got to clean up a little bit going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I will start with the Georgia-Bama game first super quick because I think Georgia deserved that victory by a mile. I think they played great. And comparing to Alabama's offense, I said this. I totally didn't say this before. Alabama's rushing game in 3 words, what the expletive? Because that is garbage. It's trash. You're not going to win. Arguably, you probably wouldn't win against almost any SEC team or middle tier to top tier SEC team with -3 rushing yards. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, that includes sack yards. Sack yards is maybe only, -28 yards? So what? You're getting a net of, 30? Nice. Maybe, if that. Nice. Still, I think that's a problem for Alabama that they have to address. And, there's been some rumblings in the college football world. We are not going to address them right now, but just know they are, let's just say, massive. But I will say, for the Ohio State Buckeyes, it happens. Indiana's a great football squad. They deserve this victory. They played in the trenches. Mendoza made some great throws. I think he increased his NFL stock in this game. And I think their first outright title since 1945, it was bound to end at some time. This is, like I said, the greatest 2-year rebuild, I think, in college football history. Kurt Cignetti deserves a lot of credit. The way he attacked the transfer portal these past couple of years, and have kind of recruited his own products as well in the process, I think for him really just shows how great of a coach he is. And I think for Indiana, they're the top squad, and I think if somebody's going to beat them down, they're going to have to play really well.
I so nice to see you guys come to the dark side of being Indiana fans. No. It's so nice to see the character development. I'm so proud of you guys. I'm so proud of you.
The only reason I'm doing this is to go against you so Fernando Mendoza loses.
I could just say a team is better. Plus, Fernando Mendoza did win Walter Camp Play of the Year.
If Nico Corretto is listening to this is a COM 104 term. This is illusion of control. So I believe taking John's side and supporting Indiana will actually be the downfall of Indiana.
Yeah,
the blind leading the blind?
We've talked about this a lot in our apartment. We've talked about the illusion of control. A lot.
We have.
Especially on weekends.
Yeah, especially on weekends.
I'm looking at you, Dombrusco.
No.
Dome.
The illusion of free choice.
No, I don't. I have the illusion of free choice, and typically it doesn't go that well.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into some college football playoff talk. Obviously, this was one of the weaker Heisman classes, I think, in a long time that we've seen. I don't really see anybody that deserves it crazy above anybody else. I think they're all kind of level. I think Jacob Rodriguez did get snubbed from going to New York. I think he definitely deserved that over the likes of some of the guys on that board. Oh, Diego Pavia. But I think hopefully next year it will be a lot more fun because last year's Bo Nix trumps every other candidate on this Heisman list, and it's not even close.
Yeah, I think we saw this because at the start of the year we said it might be a very interesting season because a lot of the power programs were breaking in new quarterbacks. You obviously had Georgia bringing in Gunnar Stockton after a couple back-to-back years of guys who had experience starting. Ohio State with Julian Sayin, And a couple of the guys who you kind of thought would be that old guard, those kind of more experienced guys like your Drew Allers, your Cade Klubniks, your Garrett Nussmeyers, either got hurt or just didn't play up to their standards you thought they would play up to. So it makes sense as to why it's a weaker class. But I definitely think it looks like it's Mendoza's award to lose right now. He's the easy odds-on favorite, and he deserves that award because of how he played against Ohio State. I think that throw to Charlie Becker was his Heisman moment, as we all say. That's a true NFL throw, and I think this is a guy who has trending all up in the world right now. I mean, that post-game interview he gave went viral, and it's a treat to listen to. If you haven't heard it yet, please go give it a listen. That's a guy who is absolutely thrilled his team's in this position right now. Maybe too much, I would say.
Wow, John, I don't know if you like Indiana or not. I don't know if I can really tell. But, yeah, this Heisman race isn't as fun as it was last year, where actually last year it seems like it should have been Ashton Genty by a mile, but the argument of, he plays two positions, I guess one in Travis Hunter's favor. But this year it's kind of, again, like we mentioned, that game against OSU, it was kind of whoever was going to win that game was going to be the Heisman favorite, whether that be Julian Sayin or Fernando Mendoza. And sure, Fernando Mendoza, he doesn't have as good as a script as, a guy like Ty Simpson does, who has beaten multiple quality opponents and has had a better strength of schedule or a true test to really show that he's a better quarterback. But it's just kind of interesting to see how much of a carousel this Heisman race has won through this year. I mean, at a point it was Cade Klubnik, it was Garrett Nussmeier beginning of the year, middle of the year it was
John Mateer.
John Mateer
in there. He was the easy favorite early in the year.
Broke his thumb. He was out of the conversation then. Ty Simpson comes into the picture, and then he just starts to do an incredible choke job. Now Fernando Mendoza just has the spot wide open.
Yeah, obviously, Dom, you really took my point that I was going to add about the Heisman conversation. Obviously, with Drew Aller and the Penn State fortunately falling off the racks. James Franklin obviously moving on to VTech after all that. And then, obviously, the mix of Garrett Nussmeier having Cade Klubnik just not really performed up to the expectations. It really left this Heisman race not as competitive as it could have been. I think with the Jacob Rodriguez versus Jeremiah Love debate, I think one of the players gets robbed regardless, and considering most of the time this is an offensive award, they're going to go with the offensive guy probably every time. But Jacob Rodriguez, though, is just so good at football, man. He deserves so much credit. He's probably going to get that fifth and final top five, I guess, or fifth place in voting.
He should be fifth, and I think it's deserved. It's like the best defense in the country pretty much there at Texas Tech, but there's a lot of different talent. I think a different person on that defense is going to go top 10. That's going to be David Bailey. I think he's definitely marked his spot in that lottery, but let's get into the college football playoff bracket. It is finally set. It's that time of year. It's playoff time in college football. Indiana takes the 1 seed, Ohio State takes the 2, Georgia takes the 3, and to round it out, Texas Tech takes the 4. Those are the 4 byes in this year's college football playoff bracket. Now, number 5, Oregon will be taking on number 12, James Madison. And you guys are going to see why this is interesting in a minute. Number 6, Ole Miss will be hosting number 11, Tulane. Yes, that's right, and 2 G5s got into it this year. Number 7, Texas A&M is going to be hosting number 10, Miami. Yes, Miami made the playoff without making the ACC championship, which I think is kind of dumb. And then number 8, Oklahoma, taking on number 9, who just lost by 21 in the SEC championship, the Alabama Crimson Tide. There's a lot of controversy around this year because of Notre Dame and their AD being, I can't say what I was going to say because we're going to have to blur it. But he is being a bit of a crybaby this year, like every year. I have a different word for it that I was going to use, but he has been throwing a bit of a temper tantrum since they did not make the playoff because Miami had the head-to-head tiebreaker on them in this year because, they beat them. They beat them straight out. And this is what Notre Dame gets for not being in a conference, and they're slighting the ACC for backing Miami, who's in their conference, and makes no sense to me. So I think Notre Dame's just trying to come up with as many excuses as they can get to not join a conference and get all that ad revenue. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's definitely been very much a hot-button topic in sports this past week, but I think at the end of the day, I think the committee did make the right choice. You have to just value that head-to-head. You have to value – you want to see those non-conference games. non-conference games. I mean, it's kind of weird. Half non-conference games get scheduled early in the year, so you have to reward teams for playing in that. And the reality is, a lot has happened since then, but Notre Dame beat Miami. And, I mean, Miami's had some tough losses since Notre Dame had a 10-game win streak, but Miami won that game. You have to value that. You have to take that into account. I think what's making a lot of people upset is more the process of why it was chosen, because in the rankings prior to this, Notre Dame was ahead of Miami, and it took them to the last week to flip them. I think that, honestly, I've been spending kind of big talking point is I think the weekly shows are doing more harm than good. I think if you just saw this bracket at the end of the day, and I think if you see it as a very solid bracket, a very deserving bracket, or the teams make sense, but making that flip at the last minute when you hadn't had that before is probably a reason why a lot of Notre Dame fans are upset right now. I think at the end of the day, you have to value that big non-conference win, but a couple of games to highlight here on the more positive side. A&M Miami should be a very fun game. You're seeing Mario Cristobal's had kind of a rap for not running the big one. This is one of the biggest games of his career at Miami so far against an A&M team that's out for blood after a tough loss last week. Ohio State and Georgia have a shot at a game, and I believe the semifinals. I believe if they both take care of business against the lower-seeded teams, that should be an awesome game if it comes to that. Those two teams have played a lot recently, and those two teams are just a treat whenever they play. And I think my favorite game on this bracket, if it does happen, if Oregon can take care of business, is Oregon versus Texas Tech. That should be a very fun game. Dante Moore's a quarterback who many of us think is going to go to the NFL, other than this year's draft or next, and Texas Tech's defense is incredible. So a couple of fun games in the bracket to watch out for. But Dom, what are your thoughts?
John, the first thing that I thought about Notre Dame, I mean, I'm going to keep it short, but I kind of felt disgusted what they did with the I think it was the Pop-Tart Bowl. They were given the Pop-Tart Bowl, and it wasn't Marcus Freeman's decision. It was the players' decision to not want to play in the Pop-Tart Bowl. And honestly, my reaction is just like shame on all of them. I mean, basically they're killing bowl game culture. They used to be such great games to watch, but now teams are just like, oh, we didn't make the playoffs. We're not going to do anything anymore. We're done for the season. We'll give this game to somebody else. I mean, you're presented with one of the better bowl games in being the Pop-Tart Bowl, where you have these silly guys dressed up in these costumes doing crazy things. They get to eat the big Pop-Tart at the end.
It's against BYU.
Yeah, I know. That sounds like an awesome game. Why would you not want to play a game? And we've never recorded this. Before, but like it's one last time you get to play with your teammates. Why would you just want to go home? I mean, it's the Pop-Tart Bowl, get to take pictures, maybe post that on the LinkedIn. I don't know. But overall, I think it comes down to week one, whenever Notre Dame played Miami. They lost. They lost to A&M the next week. Then they played a bunch of cupcake opponents the rest of the year. Join a conference, pal.
I think the counter's up now to 4 that I've been counting. But I think really the Notre Dame situation, I'm going to keep it short. I think it was an outburst from the athletic director and the entire, program of Notre Dame. I understand you're one of those prestigious programs. You're going to want some of that special treatment, especially considering you will get it next year if you end up in this situation again next year. And I think really now what it comes down to, and I know, Dom, you just mentioned it was not Freeman's fault. Obviously, I think it's good having a player vote because those are the guys you play for. It's the guys you coach for. It's your players and the better development of your players. But I think from an athlete standpoint, I know, Connie, you can also kind of chime in on this as well. If you were given one more opportunity to play a game with your brothers, would you do it again? I think 100% of 100, everybody would say yes on that. So for me, I know the players voted the way they voted, but I still think, especially even Jeremiah Love, I think I saw it, he posted something like saying, can't believe this is the end at Notre Dame. But some of those guys wanted to play, and the fact that they get robbed of it, sometimes things over they can't control. If they voted they wanted to play, kind of unfortunately really sucks. But I will talk about some of the other games super quick. That Miami-Texas A&M game will be so much fun in College Station. That environment will be awesome. Ole Miss-Tulane rematch. We'll have to see how Ole Miss does at home after all the Lane Kiffin stuff. Bama-Oklahoma will be a very interesting game as well. And if things play out currently the way they are projected to play out, that would be a very, very interesting game for a reason not a lot of people might not think. But we're not speculating. We're not going to talk about it, but still very interesting stuff there and a great ACC matchup.
Yeah, that would be an interesting way to unfold it if, like you said, what could happen happens. I don't think it's going to, but it could. You'll hear, if you're on Twitter, you know exactly what's happening right now. We can't comment on it yet because we don't know the full story, but let's just leave it at that. I honestly think that JMU does have a chance to take down Oregon. Oregon have looked pretty shaky so far this season. Obviously, that Indiana game, they looked And that offense just stalls for some reason. It's nowhere near as good as it was last year. But Dante Moore is a good quarterback. I could see a JMU upset here at Autzen. That would be really fun. Is it going to happen? No. But is it fun to be delusional and have fun with this? Yes. So that's what the college football playoff bracket looks like right now. So we're going to go to the NFL for the next part of this. We're going to go look at the playoff picture. Obviously, John took the news that Phillip Rivers was signed by the Colts, 44-year-old Phillip Rivers, because Daniel Jones is out for the year with a torn Achilles. It's an Achilles, right? It's not an ACL?
Achilles, yes.
Okay. He's out for the year with a torn Achilles. Obviously, the orbital fracture is still with Anthony Richardson. He's still on IR. And Riley Leonard picked up a knock. Those were the only 3 quarterbacks on the roster. And they need somebody to take them down the stretch. And who better than Mr. Grandpa himself, Uncle Grandpa Phillip Rivers, which is going to set his Hall of Fame eligibility back another 5 years. So he's now only going to be eligible in 2031.
Only if he takes a snap.
If he takes a snap. He's going to take a snap.
Well,
he's in line to start right now.
Yeah, if he's on the active roster at all, the counter resets. You don't even need to take a snap, which will be very interesting.
For some reason, I thought you did have to take a snap, but it's
a weird rule. Well, usually around this time, this isn't really.
Well, he's going to take a snap.
Necessary.
So
yeah.
You
assume so.
All right, so we're going to look at the NFL playoff picture right now. We have a very short episode today. Right now, in the AFC, I know we've talked all year about the Colts being one of the juggernauts in the AFC. They're out of the playoffs right now. They are the 8 seed in the AFC. At 8-5, they're not in the playoffs. That shows you how the quality of the AFC right now. But down the line, the Broncos are the 1 seed in the AFC, followed by the Pats, the Jags, and the Steelers, which is still miraculous that the Steelers are winning the division at 7-6. But the Chargers clock in at the 5 seed. The 6 seed is the Bills. And just this week, the Houston Texans took over the 7 seed. It's that defense, man. Once they started getting rolling on offense, that defense is going to do numbers for them. But there are a few teams that are eliminated from the playoffs as of right now. On the AFC side, at least, John, I'm sorry. I know you had I know you were thinking that they were going to make the playoffs there for a bit, but the Jets got eliminated.
Wow, I am so shocked by this news. Audible gasp.
Wow. But the 4 teams in the AFC eliminated right now are the Jets, the Browns, the Raiders, and the Titans. Who saw that one coming?
Let's go, John.
Hey.
But right now, the Cincinnati Bengals, sitting at 4-9, are the worst record to still be in the playoff hunt right now, just because of how bad their division is. But the Dolphins are climbing up. The Chiefs are at 6-7. Alongside the Ravens and the Dolphins. That's an interesting look on the AFC right now. What are your guys' thoughts on at least the AFC side of the playoff bracket?
Man, this has been one of the crazier years in the NFL I can remember in recent years, because you're looking at an AFC playoff picture that has no Mahomes, no Lamar, or no Burrow. And Mahomes, I mean, you've probably heard it a couple times if you tapped into sports talk. The earliest Mahomes has been eliminated from the playoffs, it has had a season end, is overtime in the AFC Championship game. That's the earliest it's happened. It's happened twice. But right now, I don't think they're going to make it right now. Houston's playing great football. They really got back. They rallied around Davis Mills and got C.J. Stroud back. That defense is insane. But I think for the AFC, as I mentioned before, no Burrow, no Lamar, no Mahomes. Josh Allen, man, this has got to be your time. You're not going to get an easier path than this at all. You have a shot to go on. This is probably the best chance you're going to have to take this team to a Super Bowl. I don't know, it's a flawed roster. That run defense leaves a lot to be desired. You've had some fumbling issues with James Cook as of recently in that game against Cincinnati last week. But in the AFC side, Josh Allen, you have to take it in. I think for the Patriots, too, you also have to kind of go, even though you're a young team, you are well positioned to make a deeper run here because, as you see, I think you kind of remind me a lot of the Commanders of last year because, as you see, nothing's guaranteed in terms of health in this league. Those are 2 teams I think they have to make deep runs this year because this is their best shot to win it all, I think, for both these teams.
I mean, for this playoff picture, I'll touch briefly on it, but the AFC North, it's going to come down to the last week of who's going to take that division. Is it going to be that important for a deep playoff run for whoever takes the division? No, probably not. They'll be like first or second round in the playoff, bounce out, see you next year. But what I'm looking at here is the Chiefs. I mean, as we predicted earlier in the season, the AFC West is a way better division than what people thought it would be since over the years, well, it's the best coach division now in football, but the Broncos are miles ahead of the Chiefs. The Chiefs have a chance of not making it. They probably won't make it at all. They probably have like a 30% chance as of right now to even make the playoffs. Losing, I mean, It was the Thanksgiving game where they lost to Dallas, where they had with a win it would be 60, with a loss it would be 40. So it's obviously around the 30% that they would make the playoffs. I'm more concerned about the NFC because I've been saying this for weeks, but there are going to be some teams that get very disappointed. They're going to have good quality records, but it's just going to end up being either head-to-head or things like that. And I'm talking specifically about the NFC West and the NFC North. It seems like every week it's neck to neck with these teams, specifically the NFC North. I mean, the first place has changed quite a few times already this season. You're going to see you're going to see one or two teams that are in the hunt right now get very, fans are going to be very upset and angry. The NFC South, I'm hoping the Carolina Panthers can pull it out, as I believe that, I don't know, they look like the better team right now compared to Tampa Bay, but again, a lot of these divisions in the NFC specifically will be a last week basis type of thing.
Yeah, I think the NFC South, I'll actually start with that as well, Dom. The only way I think Carolina gets in the playoffs is by winning that division with Tampa Bay. It's just so – because if you consider the wild card scenarios now, I mean, you look at even Chicago and San Francisco, the only reason really why Chicago jumped from the number 1 seed to all the way down to number 7 is because Seattle being 10-3, you have San Francisco at 9-4, but it's that tiebreaker, and guess what? Winning percentage in conference games matters, people. Trust me, especially in playoffs, you'll take any tiebreaker you can get. San Francisco has that, so that's why they're the 6th, and then Chicago is 7. But I'll go back up to the AFC. I think really that Houston win kind of screwed up the bracket in a good amount. And I think obviously with the Kansas City Chiefs, they cannot win the AFC West now. It is mathematically impossible. So we will have a new AFC West champ, which I think will be really fun. And I think also a couple things as well. I mean, Indiana sliding, Daniel Jones out for the year with that Achilles. I mean, Indiana might even potentially fall out of that contention just due to something like an injury they couldn't control, which I think would be, unfortunately, really sad. 'Cause this Indiana team, it's been so much fun, aka Indianapolis, but it's in Indiana. They have looked really fun, and I'd be kind of disappointed if they don't make the playoffs. Impressive with the rise of Houston, and obviously you have Denver and New England looking like great football teams. Obviously, I know Denver's games are a lot closer than others, but also New England in there. You have Jacksonville, and then you have Pittsburgh. Dom, look at you, the 4th seed. Look at you guys go. But I think really in both these playoff pictures, it's going to come down to the last week again. And I think really as football fans, that's what we want. We want those games, especially towards the Week 17, Week 18, to matter because if you can see some wild chaos and have a random shocking team, like let's say Houston gets into the playoffs and stays in, that would be a really wild scenario.
That would be a very wild scenario. But on the NFC side, I know we got into it a little bit. The 1 seed is the Rams right now. Then over to the Packers at number 2, the Eagles at 3, and the Bucs at 4, who are currently tied with the Carolina Panthers, who are the 9 seed right now at the same record. Ridiculous.
Did you see their tiebreaker? Best win percentage in common games.
Oh my God.
Which is really weird because you don't go off head to head, you don't go off conference winning percentage, you go off common games.
That is weird.
I think it's a 3rd tiebreaker. I'll double check. But that's insane.
5 is the Seahawks, 6 is the Niners, and like you said, 7 is the Bears. The Bears lost 1 game and went from the 1 seed to the 7 seed. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, this NFC is the more brutal division this year. I mean, they're both brutal this year. It's a very competitive playoff race on both ends, but I think the NFC North might take the cake. That's a brutal division right now. I mean, the Vikings even kind of showed with that domination of the Commanders that they can never be truly counted out. They're still going to have a chance to kind of put a scare into you any given week if Nine himself can play like the Nine we saw on last Sunday. But I really think it's going to be a very hard for the NFC because I think a good team's going to get left out. I think Dallas is playing better football, even though they kind of had a bit of a quiet game on Thursday against the Lions. I think Detroit's playing pretty good football, too, at this point in time, with Jahmyr Gibbs being awesome, one of the best players in football right now. But I think there's a team I'm going to be scared for here. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I have a fact for you guys. We all stayed up to watch Game 3 of the World Series this year, that 18-inning fiasco where Freddie Freeman hit the walk-off home run. That feels like ages ago, right? You want to know how many wins Tampa Bay has since then?
How many?
1.
Wow.
So they are playing their worst football right now. They had that really hot start where Baker Mayfield was in MVP talks, but it hasn't really gone their way since. I think Carolina is well positioned to leapfrog them. That win against the Rams from a couple weeks ago is a statement win. I think they're going to be in the playoffs, but the NFC is a pretty rough one. I think the 2 best teams, though, there are from the West with the Seahawks and the Rams. 2 teams I think both can win a Super Bowl this year. But, Dom, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts about the NFC, I mean, John, you just talked about Tampa Bay. They just lost to the Saints, so it's very much not looking good for them. I mean, Saints fans are going absolutely nuts. They saw that Tyler Shuck actually did something, and that game against that loss against the Saints is huge for the Panthers. Like I said, it's going to come down to the last week. The East, watch out for the Cowboys. They could come back, and it just looks like, I don't know, Philly kind of goes through this every year. The Eagles go through the same identity crisis midseason. You know, they have I guess they interviewed Saquon. Apparently there's a blow-up positive snowman in their locker room right now. There's always drama with the Eagles. It just seems like it's like this every season. A.J. Brown complains. Jalen Hurts just had one of the worst games of his life on Monday Night Football with Mike Wazowski and James P. Sullivan. I mean, let's get real here. Yeah, the Eagles aren't looking too hot right now, but they'll probably fix themselves within the next few weeks, as they always do. It just, I don't know. They're calling for the head right now of their OC, but that division seems to be locked in by the Eagles. The North is an interesting story. Will the Packers lock in? I don't know. The Jordan Love show is always an interesting show to watch, as Jordan Love can either look like he's a competent franchise QB or a terrible, mediocre guy like Kenny Pickett. There's no in between. I mean, I saw him play the Steelers a few years ago. It looked pretty rough. I mean, without Tucker Kraft, he seemed to have some growing pains for a minute, but he seemed to find his way back into getting comfortable in the pocket again. So, I don't know. Again, that'll come down to the last week. You'll see a lot of those teams probably enter the playoff picture. NFC West, another powerhouse. San Francisco is always probably the best system in the NFL. The Rams right now and the Seahawks, two powerhouses in the NFL, probably number one and number two. I mean, if you don't want to talk about the New England Patriots or the Broncos, those two teams right there. Now, if you're going to get punched in the face, you would not want to get punched in the face by either of those two teams.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Imagine having, I believe it'd be what? Yeah, Seattle and Tampa Bay or some form like that playing in the playoffs. Just because Seattle and LA are both 10-3, which is just insane. Obviously, it's due to head-to-head, but being 10-3 and having that 5 seed, man, just has got to hurt. I mean, that just shows you that every game against those divisional opponents matter. And I think really for the Philadelphia situation, I mean, look, Kevin Patulio, I would be shocked if he comes back next year. I mean, that's just me and my personal opinion. But I think with Philadelphia, they have to find some way to get back to their normal standard because we're losing 3 straight. You have the Raiders, though. So, I mean, if you wanted to have anybody, you have the Raiders and Commanders back-to-back. So, I mean, hey, just saying, there's a chance to come back. They play the Commanders 2 out of the last 4 weeks. So, who knows? Philadelphia gets those wins. It'll probably be just fine. But, yeah, that NFC playoff picture, good luck.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gauntlet on both sides of the bracket, but we're going to see everything unfold within the next few weeks here in the NFL and in college football because they're both going to be playing crucial games here down the stretch of their seasons. But that is going to do it today for us on Stirring the Pot. Bit of a shorter episode. We've had a long week, finals week coming up. Wanted to get you guys a quick episode before we go to, not Thanksgiving break, winter break. Going to try to maybe record something over break. You never know.
At the very least, there may be some form of lost media coming to light.
Oh no, the Panthers episode. This is completely lost in media. This is like black hole media.
This is like YouTube conspiracy theory videos that you watch at night before you go to bed. This file has been on Connor's computer for like a year and a half now.
It was a great episode, I will say, but we thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Stirring the Pot. We're going to try and get you more content coming. At least we'll get some back in January. We might see more in December, but you never know. We thank you guys. Peace out. See ya.